Hey, what's going on? Cookies here. We are going to take a look at a viewer submitted +20 Fires of Ascension on Tyrannical. This happened sometime in like the middle or endish of October of 2021. So this is season 2. And we're just going to go ahead and kind of commentate over the VoD itself. I might skip through parts. Since it's Tyrannical, we'll probably mostly be focusing on boss related stuff, but we do start the VoD just a little bit into this pull, rather than right before this pull, so we don't see everything, but that's okay. The first like minor thing that I will point out is just to make sure that as a not just a paladin, but as a blood elf, try to be aware of your racial ability and try to use it. So like this mender here, I'm gonna try to use this like pen tool and try not to mess it up. So bear with me if I make some mistakes. But we have this debuff here, or this buff rather, on the mob that the mender applies to himself. And when you see this, if it goes to 4 stacks, so it starts at 5 and it goes down as the mender makes auto attacks, if you see it not get purged instantly, you should just purge it with Arcane Torrent, because it's really important to get this ability purged, especially with as many stacks as possible, ideally 5, because then it drops a weapon on the ground, any melee DPS or the healer or the tank can pick it up and do a bunch of extra damage on this pull. So you usually want like the rogue or any kind of melee DPS with cleave abilities to pick it up, because it'll scale with all those abilities. But either way, if I don't see my melee DPS picking it up or anyone purging it, I will just take it upon myself to purge this buff and then take the weapon myself and just do some extra damage for the pull. And it does a sizable amount of damage, so that's the only reason I'm mentioning it. Is just first thing right off the bat is make sure that you're being aware of stuff like this and using the utility that you have if you can. Also, I will mention, because it's Tyrannical, we should be looking to use a lot of our cooldowns here, because we want everything up for the boss. So this is really our only opportunity to use stuff that's, say, like 3 or 4 minute long cooldowns, because they're just not going to be back up in time by the time that we get to the boss if we use them later, like say on the next pull or the pull after that. So I would say stuff like Bop is good on this pull, just to be safe. Like you have 2 melee DPS, so I would just Bop one of the melee DPS, whichever one I think is more in danger to die. In this case, it would be the Demon Hunter, because the rogue has cheat death, so he's in like no danger whatsoever of dying. So when we go into this pull, I would just bop the DH, just because it helps with the frontals and there's nowhere else to use it for the next long while, unless we have, I will double check who the mini boss is. This fly over here. I guess I can just fast forward to Cyber's Mount. Okay, yeah, so it's the incinerator guy. If it was the executor, the physical damage guy with the bleeds, you'd want to save Bop. But because it's the incinerator, Bop has no value whatsoever on him. So you can just use Bop here during this pull on one of the melee, just to be safe. And it's the same thing with like Aura Mastery. You should just be popping Aura Mastery when this pull pretty much starts. Like by now I would have already popped it. Again, just to be completely safe. And because there's nowhere else that you're going to really use Aura Mastery until potentially the boss, if the tank needs like that many extra externals and stuff to survive, which is worthwhile. Targeting's good. You're targeting the Goliath and dealing damage. And if you really wanted to here, just to like be able to pump even more damage, because you only did like 8k DPS, and that's a sizable amount, but you could definitely get to like above 12k on this pull as a Ventunax Holy Paladin, depending on like how active you are in melee, and again, like picking up this buff if no one else is. And I don't think it ever gets picked up. I think the Ender uses it the entire time. Goes down to 2 stacks. Okay, it just got purged. And here, like, you're targeting the Castigator. This is where I would definitely, you just want to be on the Goliath like 100% of the time. And what I was trying to get to is, if you use Bubble on this pull, it's usually totally fine, because again, there's nowhere really to use Bubble. I guess if you're in like a very high key, you would use it on you would save Bubble for like the Incinerator, just to cleanse yourself for free. But on a 20 Tyrannical, you don't really need to like worry about the mini bosses that much. So like here, I would just pop it, and then you just be able to stand on Sanguine. You don't have to worry about anything, and you can just like full pump DPS. And a minor note, since you're running Holy Avenger, it's good to have that as like a healing throughput cooldown, but your wings is going to be back up by the time you get to the incinerator, which is like the next pull where it's kind of like you need healing throughput. So what I would do is just use Holy Avenger on this pull, and then you have it back up for boss. Same exact concept, you're just using it for damage. You're not doing it to do extra healing really, it's just for damage. So just don't hesitate to like just kind of spam stuff on first pulls like this, especially on Tyrannical weeks where all you really care about is just making sure everything's up for the boss. So, and see, like now, if you use Holy Avenger, if you don't use Holy Avenger on this next pull, you pretty much can't use it if you want it for the boss. You'd have to just hold on to it the entire time. I actually want to see when your back off cooldown. Everything was dead, so you definitely know. Okay. This pull, pretty straightforward. You don't want to really use anything. That's all I'm making sure of, is that you don't use stuff like Holy Avenger. Well, I guess like if you wanted to use Holy Avenger, this would be the only time to press it now for damage. At this point, you kind of have to save it if you want it up for the boss, that is. Like on the pull. Ideally, you do. You're using wings, that's fine. Spells are good. Okay, pretty straightforward there. That I don't see any press anything. You're using Holy Avenger on this pull, which means like you're definitely not gonna have. I'm wondering if you just use it. So this again would be the case where like instead of opting to use Holy Avenger, or the argument of like, well, what if my Holy Avenger wasn't up because I pressed it on the first pull and now we're doing this pull and I'm gonna lack healing. This is where you use other things, like you have Aura Mastery, you still have Bop that you didn't use earlier, so if you know that you're going to do a pull like this, you can save Bop, but you have Aura Mastery up, you have Sack back up, you have your own personal bubble. Again, if you don't use it on the first pull, you could like potentially save it if you know you're going to do a pull like this, where you need healing cooldowns. Because of Tyrannical week, if this wasn't Tyrannical week, it wouldn't matter nearly as much, but like as a Venthir Holy Paladin, you really want to make sure everything is up. Here we lose the Demon Hunter. Like he's getting castigatored. He's at half HP for a long while, so this is where instead of putting healing into the tank, so the tank has meta available right here, or he's using meta, he just pressed it, so he's going to be unkillable no matter if you do healing to him or not for the next like 20 seconds. Whenever a Demon Hunter is in Metamorphosis, you can just almost completely ignore them or just let Beacon Healing do the job. So here, instead of healing him and kind of wasting that beacon, you should just be putting heals into the DH and the Rogue and keeping them topped up and alive. And again, we have Aura Mastery, so that would be like a huge benefit to keeping them alive. Did a cast go off, or what was that initial damage? Was that just the Castigator hitting them? I saw the Rogue and the DH both take like a sizable chunk. Looks like it was a frontal, okay. So again, that's like where, if you have Bop available, this would be a good time to use it. It's like, the group's like half HP, you're kind of struggling through the pull, it looks like, and there's people that are like in danger of potentially dying and they're not using anything. Like the Demon Hunter hasn't used Blur, he's not pressing Netherwalk, like, so at this point is where you just bop the DH and catch back up and in healing, because you really need to get the group like topped up. Especially like this is in regards to like pugging keys, especially because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if people are going to get accidentally hit by something, and you can't just expect them to dodge everything and be perfect at the game, because you're doing like a +20. You're not doing a +26 fires with people who play the game for like 18 hours a day. So you have to be accepting of mistakes and try to work around it, rather than just, oh, the Demon Hunter made a mistake, can't do anything about it, because we can do something about it. I think also your hammer comes back up right here, and I know there's a lot going on, so you probably just didn't notice it, but you want to make sure you throw that down immediately, because, again, this is another ability that you're going to want up for as soon as you pull that boss with Wings, with Ashen, with all your CDs, with the potion, all that stuff. You're going to want that Hammer of Light, so using that right away is, like, very, very important. So as soon as I B-res him, I would just throw down the hammer immediately. And here we're in the front with the tank, so you just want to be really aware of those frontals. I know Ellismere has like a weak aura that goes over, like makes noises every time something's making a frontal attack. Because like here you're still just walking with the tank, and that's what getting hit by. Like you're still getting hit by every single one of these frontals. So we just want to be really aware of positioning. And obviously it's storming and sanguine, so there's like a lot going on. But still, it's something we have to be aware of. And just like the first pull, this is again where I would definitely recommend like always focus like targeting the Goliath. You can help interrupt things, but it should just be a simple like mouse over macro hit, or you just quickly target them, hodge them, or do whatever you need to do to CC them, and then go right back to the Goliath. And you should just be on the Goliath like the entire time. And see, now we use our hammer, but I don't think it depends. It might be back up just because of like this pack dying kind of slow. Purge the weapon, that's good. Didn't see that, but assuming it's how much damage. Another thing here is as soon as this pull starts, the first things you should be trying to focus on when wanting to press things to do damage is Ashen, Wings, your Hammer of Light, and Consecrate. Those are like the most important things to get out on the ground immediately. Like I would Ashen, Wings, and then as I'm throwing that Light's Hammer, I'd be running into melee and be putting Consecrate down immediately after. Like this whole time you've gone like 8, 9, 10 seconds without pressing a Consecrate, and it's like Consecrate's a huge contributor to your damage during Wings. It's actually, especially with 2 targets, it's like absolutely huge how much damage Consecrate really does. So even here, like making sure that you're maintaining Consecrate every time that the bird moves. I don't know the exact timing of it, but I think it times out to where you press 1 Consecrate every time he moves. So like here you press Consecrate, and then he's gonna move here in just a little bit. And then yeah, you'd run over to his new location and then just Consecrate again right away. So I would already have ran ahead of the bird as it's moving to its next spot and consecrating on the ground before it even, like, as it gets there or right before it gets there. And see, like, now you put down a Consecrate, but now you're just gonna, the whole entire group's just gonna run out of it, and that Consecrate's just sitting there doing absolutely nothing. And the only reason we're being picky here is because it's Tyrannical, and this is what's important on Tyrannical Week. Okay, so there's a lot going on here. Go ahead and look. Okay, we have a lot of stuff up. We have Aura Mastery, we have Sack. We're a little bit behind as far as like being proactive about the Consecrates on the bird. Here it starts running back over. We have our DH with a meta. He just got 2 stacks of the debuff and you sack. That's good. That's a very good sack. So this death might just be kind of out of your control, honestly. So honestly, this is like, again, why we go ahead of the bird, because you're trailing so far behind that by the time you get there, there's already so much that has happened. You just have to like play catch up the entire time. So like right here, as soon as this bird starts walking away, I would zip over there. I would like Ventunax teleport over there, or I would use my horse and get over there like immediately, because now what's happening is while the tank's taking a bunch of damage and has the bosses stacked up and everything, you're having to catch up by running all the way over here and going to where everybody is while there's tons of damage happening. And there he gets hit by a frontal. or not a frontal, sorry, just the tank ability. And this is where at this point you don't have time anymore to like run over there. You just need to start healing the tank. So this is where you throw down Light's Hammer on the bird and you cast like a hard cast a Holy Light into the tank, and then just try to generate some holy power with like the Holy Shock that comes off cooldown as you're finished casting. Or Mastery's up, so you can always use that, but Sack should have been enough in theory, but you just weren't like pumping heals also into the tank on top of that. Because once he gets, if you see the tank ever get debuff stacks of this from touching the line, he's going to be in a lot of danger if the tanks, or if the boss is also going to hit him with one of the tank hits. So you have to be really on top of that. I'm wondering if you guys just end up resetting. I'm assuming this is definitely a reset. Yeah. So yeah, there on this boss, just try to be a little more proactive. Follow the bird ahead. Don't, or I guess I shouldn't use that wording then. Be ahead of the bird. So as soon as you see it leaving, just run in the same direction that it's running and just get over to its spot before it even gets there. Or like be, you know, meleeing it and Crusader Strike and all that stuff as it's walking over there. And then just be really mindful of the tank, what he has available, what he's using. And if you see him get hit by that debuff from standing in the line in between the bosses, then that's where it's like, okay, I really need to pump healing into the tank and keep him alive. That was good, like how you followed the bird over a little bit better. Now you're getting a lot more value by sitting here. And see, like now, this is like much better pacing of you following the bird over. You're still like a little bit slow as far as getting to the bird when it gets to its spot, but it's still better than it was before. And also here, I noticed you did this on the mobs, and I was going to mention something, but I decided not to because it wasn't that big of a deal. But now I'm starting to notice it as being like an actual bad habit, is you tend to just like press your S key a lot and just back up for no reason. So you're just like, it's making you sometimes sit on like 2 Crusader Strike charges and whatnot. And it's something like, even here, like you just, instead of just walking backwards like this every time, just walk to the side or something if you're like afraid of the frontals or that. I hope the video didn't just break. Okay, sorry. Fixing the quality, putting it back up. Yeah, I noticed when you're hitting stuff, you like tend to press your S key a lot. And instead of doing that, you should, like even here you did it, and now you're just like running around in circles around the storming when you could just go like side to side. I use strafe a lot more than I use S and W, honestly. I use my strafe keys the most out of anything. Like here you could literally just go stand kind of behind the bird where all the other melee are just standing still, and just AFK it. Even here, like you're moving out of melee attack range sometimes, and it's kind of weird. So just something to be mindful of. Again, it's not like, when I first noticed it on the mobs, it wasn't the end of the world because it really doesn't like do that much. But if you're doing it this much, like here, you're missing a Crusader Strike. You're not even something as simple as like not auto attacking it's obviously very picky, but that's what this is for. Is we're just kind of picking this apart, trying to essentially like fix bad habits is what I would say that is the most important thing from VoD reviewing. There's just a lot of time that you're spending outside of melee and not generating holy power. Like right now, you've been on 2 Crusader Strikes for quite some time. And even here, you're still out of melee, still sitting on 2 Crusader Strikes. And I know you're kind of scared of like the melee and stuff, but like look how much more dangerous it is when you're like playing reactively to it, because you're like staying in the same spot but just backing up and going forward and backing up. This is better. You just position yourself behind it, and then you don't need to back up at all. You can literally just stay in melee. There's no frontal on the big boss anymore, so you can just stand in front of the big boss if you need to. There's like no worry whatsoever with that kind of stuff. Ashen down with wing. Yeah, that's pretty much the whole fight, so like everything else. goes all right. Here we have the Tiger Pole. I would definitely not be sitting on this low of mana for this long. So like when you finish the boss, what I would do is if you know where the tank's gonna go next, is I would just be ready to go there. It looks like the tank. Okay, so maybe I think you guys are on comms and stuff, so he probably said we're gonna go over here. If I would mount up as soon as I get to the top of the stairs right here, boom, I'm drinking. I would be drinking right now. Just to, because the whole entire time he's pulling these tigers, you can be refilling mana, and you don't want to actually heal him like that because what it does is it aggroes the tigers to you because he hasn't generated any threat whatsoever on them. So all you do is you just sack or bop him before he aggroes the tigers, and then you can still drink because you're out of combat the entire time. And then you only go in once you're ready, because now you're just sitting on like 0 mana. You literally can't cast a Holy Shock right now. So it lowers your DPS, it lowers your healing, and it just makes you, like behind. You just want to always try to, if you have an opportunity to drink and get some mana back, just always do it. There's no reason not to, really. Always better to be full on mana. Here you press wings. It's kind of, the timings are like a little bit off. If you guys are just going that way, because you guys didn't pull the other side. If you're doing the big pull next, you definitely want to. This might have been a case where just like you had to press wings because you need fashion. So it was either just you press them there and get something out of them, or you just hold them. So I guess we'll see how it turns out. But it definitely doesn't take you guys a minute and a half to do the big pull. Here you're drinking, that's good. And once this pack dies, you go into the big one. Don't have Ashen. Very unfortunate for this pull, but and because of how long this pull lasts, and because you don't have wings available to press, I would be spending all your holy power on like Word of Glories or Light of Dawns to try to get wings procs, because they're actually beneficial here. So my theory usually with using like Shield of the Righteous versus trying to fish for wings procs is I start pressing Shield of the Righteous either if I have wings for a long enough time to where the mob will be dead anyways, so I don't need to get more wings procs, because if I get more wings procs, it's just wasted. Or if I have like wings coming up off cooldown, then I would just press Shield of the Righteous, because I can just press wings and it doesn't add time if you get like a wings proc and then press wings. It's the other way around. You have to press wings first and then get a wings proc. Really unfortunate timing with like how your Ashen is. The choice is you kind of either like just use it here and get some damage out of it, or you save it. This is where like Ashen always gets really annoying running in like less coordinated groups or pugs especially, is like I usually just end up going with, I know my Ashens aren't going to be the greatest thing ever, but I'm just going to press them as many times as possible. That's better than holding it for 8 minutes and trying to figure out. But I think you're in a group that's on like Discord and stuff together, so at least you guys have like a better idea of stuff. Right. Okay, you're pulling all this stuff. Back on the tank. This is where I definitely just bubble. Like, this is already super dangerous because they can randomly target you. Yep. So that bubble was a little bit late there. Like on a higher key, you definitely die there. So just be aware of that and try to use it proactively rather than, oh shit, I'm at 20% health, I need to press it. Also, Hodge isn't being used here, so the best use of Hodge on this pull, especially during Sanguine Week to avoid Sanguine, is you use it on the skirmisher right here. So he's actually the one that's murdering you super badly. So when you go into this pull, tank is going to pull it all right here. The skirmisher is going to jump out of the group. And then as long as he is not in melee with the tank, he's just going to cast Hurl on random players. Like right there, he casts it on you. Right there, he casts it on you. And I don't know who went on that time, but like he's still just spam casting Hurl into the group, and it's really deadly. So this is where I would just Hodge him 100% of the time. If there's a skirmisher outside the group and the tank is not on top of it, I'm Hodging it every single time. And you can even like blinding light it and stuff just to keep it from casting the Hurls, because like. And because you guys did that pull, I'm wondering if you're gonna use. They definitely don't want to stuff, so. It just makes the pull take a really long time if this. Yeah, that's gonna be. And we just send it. So there is just a little bit more like, this is just a group. But definitely planning a little bit more ahead of time, like whether you guys are pulling that or not, because it seemed like you guys were 50-50 on like, do we want to pull the squad leader in with this, or you guys seem on what to not working out, like plan about it. Yeah, double Praetor is incredibly dangerous, even on. One thing to note about the squad leader pulls, though, is you don't actually have to focus the squad leader like you guys are. All the squad leader does is reduce AoE damage done to all the surrounding mobs, so you can still single target mobs and get like full damage on them. So like for this, for instance, you guys could just be focusing down one of the Praetors, or single target both the Praetors down until they're dead, just to get them out of the way. Rest of that pull. Right. You guys are pulling all of it on Tyrannical. This is fine, but on Fortified, you definitely don't stuff. It's very, very easy. Good. Somebody purged the weapon. The weapon's right here in this pool of stuff. No one's picking it up. So this is where like you guys. Okay, perfect. You go and pick it up. That's awesome. Exactly what I want. Good. Aware of if the weapon's being picked up or not. That is good, as long as. So, this is another case where we're like just sitting on Aura Mastery for like little to no reason. We definitely want to save Bob for the boss, so we don't have to use that on this pull. But we can definitely use Aura Mastery and like Blinding Light, even like on this Inquisitor, just spam casting Dark Lash and Infernal Strike. You can just use Blinding Light as like a short little interrupt. It just, even if it's only very temporary of an interrupt, it still helps a lot. It can save people so many times. Aura Mastery definitely saves the demon there. Put Hodge on the champion. I don't think casting any touched him. Didn't look. So a better use of Hodge. Okay, it was during that. But if you're not using stuns on the champion, then the best place to use them is definitely on like the Inquisitor or the Praetor if the Praetor jumps out of the group. Inquisitors are probably the most deadly. I think another minor thing is the DH dies because you like prioritized healing into the rogue, which made sense because he got hit by this debuff, but you just dispelled him, and like here the rogue and the demon hunter are at even HP. But who's actually in more danger of dying? Definitely the demon hunter, because the rogue still has cheat death, the rogue still has cloak, the rogue still has evasion, banish even, the vial. Like there's so many things that prevent rogues from dying, and he even cloaks right here. But the DH doesn't really have that much. Like Blur is good, Darkness is great, Netherwalk is obviously amazing, but yeah, they have to press that stuff. Rogues don't have to press cheat death; it just works. So if a rogue has cheat death, always prioritize the other people instead of healing them if they're at the same HP. I'm gonna go ahead and fast forward to the boss because it's already a really long video. Let's see. Don't have Light's Hammer on the pull, it looks like, which is unfortunate. Again, we're not putting down Consecrate. That's like really big for boss damage, even on single target. Consecrate's actually one of your like biggest damage abilities if you press it often enough, so top of that and then here you're pressing Shield of the Righteous. This again is like that same thing where I would definitely be fishing for wings procs in this case, because you know the boss is going to last longer than your wings, and you have Ashen up. So like with Ashen especially, you can see the way that it works is you have Ashen for 28 seconds and you have wings for 17. So if you get one wings proc, which is 10 extra seconds, it lines up perfectly with your whole entire Ashen duration. So my biggest priority is always, when I press wings and Ashen, my first priority is always getting in one more wings proc so that I have a lineup of wings and Ashen duration. And then I can maybe debate of like, okay, now I'm just going to spend the rest, shield bashing so that we get as much damage as possible during this window. But here you definitely want to be fishing for that extra wings, because now when wings expires, now you just have an empty Ashen, which this Ashen does very little to nothing as far as healing and damage goes. Hammer up, yeah, we just throw that. Next time we want to try to make it line up with the boss on pull, especially on Tyrannical. Really need everything. Let's also see here, because we have that first initial... This first initial Dark Stride that goes out, you still have 20 seconds of Ashen and 10 seconds of wings. And I want to say you bop this one, right? Still ticking down, still ticking down. Maybe you don't bop this one. Next one. Okay, it was definitely the next one. Right? There's the Dark Stride. Okay. That's more reasonable. I almost want to say that you should use stack before bop, but I guess it really doesn't matter in this case. This is fine. I just wanted to make sure that you didn't bop during Ashen and Wings. Obviously, if you bop during Ashen and Wings, then that's just like all that free healing that could have just been going into him and probably keeping him topped off by itself would have been wasted, but it's honestly fine the way that you timed it, so that's reasonable. And then you use hack for this one, so that's totally. This is where I would start thinking about pressing Aura Mastery, because I have two people who are in danger of dying. If the rogue makes one more mistake, he's dead. You make a mistake, you're dead. And the Shaman was taking bleed and is going to keep getting bleeds because you have all melee and then one ranged. So he gets all the fight. So the Shaman goes down. Infusion of Light also on a boss like this is really good. So like when the Shaman is bleeding down like this, as long as you know that you're safe, so like once you dodge this one, you know you're not going to get hit anymore for a little while. So what you do is just hard cast a Holy Light into the Shaman. It does a ton of extra healing, generates you 2 Holy Power, and just keeps you like really on point with like keeping him alive. This is again where you're like doing that like backing up thing, and it's like putting you in danger more than it's helping you. Like you're almost backpedaling into the bad stuff and then having to dodge it again. And you're about to have wings come up. You probably just press wings to do damage to the boss, honestly, just to finish it off. So like here you just got a wings proc, so what I would do is immediately throw my hammer down because one, it's a last during wings, and then at this point we don't have to press wing. Got that initial wings proc. Because if we pressed the if we would have pressed the hammer right there, it would have been back up by the time we flew. Little mini boss, honestly, or been very close. And you do end up pressing wings here, so I think it overlapped with your proc, which definitely don't. I think you get another wings proc here, right? Yeah. You lost like 2 seconds of wings, but honestly at this point you don't need to press wings because you can just press it on the next pull upstairs. And you're gonna have to hold Ashen for the boss anyways because you don't do enough trash to where you can press Ashen. The only way you can press Ashen before the next boss is if you press it right on this next pull and you do like you double up on the guys on the top of the stairs. Like the mini boss, the 2 mini bosses essentially, like the angel and the tormented guy. And yeah, the hammer definitely would have been up by this time. Like this just passes some RP. And if you're gonna, it's like it's still good to get out just to be safe, but if you are gonna bop and bubble this stuff right here from this guy, try to remember that you don't have to move out. So when he targets you, you can just stay in the group and bubble yourself, and it won't AoE as long as you bubble before he actually dashes at you and does the spin attack, or before he hits you essentially with the lead. Like right there, you just bubble, and then you can stay in and do damage. Not have to spend that time moving out. Refreshing Consecrate here is really important. It's good. You refresh it at the last second. You can refresh it a little bit earlier, but I think it's like the other ground effects where it doesn't benefit from like the pandemic window. So you can just press it once it's like expired or very close to expiring. But you also have the opportunity if you have free globals and stuff to press it in the. Lucky to get that bleed in a second. Mana is fine for loose mana is really good for. Oh no! Oh, I knew that was gonna happen. I was gonna say you should not be mounting right here while you're jumping. Oh my gosh, no! We're just gonna not. We're not. I'm just. All right, so we're running up here. What happens here? End up doing a crazy pull. So here you don't actually have to wait for them to CC. You can just Door of Shadows up there without anything. Okay, so we're doing one of the weird pulls in the middle. These pulls are actually super sketchy. Very careful. This is again where like this pull is immediately dangerous as soon as you pull it, and the Justicar and the Warden and stuff aren't being interrupted very much. So this is where I just immediately hodge the Justicar. Like I would have already hodged it by now. Blinding Light should already be used. Like you should just use a bunch of stuff because that Forced Confessions just kills you because no one kicked it. D-Res. And this is again another pull where we can use Aura Mastery because it'll be back up during like halfway through the next boss. So if we use it now, it's a good time. And depending if you guys kill the next mini boss or not, which it looks like you guys are because of the packs you're clearing, but and see, still this whole pull we went without like using Hodge. Hodge is like so OP as a Holy Paladin, and plus to make sure we're always trying to find like almost every pack you should be looking at something that you can Hodge. Always be beneficial. Think of it as like another healing spell because you don't have to do healing when something's stunned and not killing people. Oh man, you're doing all the system pulls. These are terrifying. This is from not going left after the first boss. I remember. You guys went immediately to the tigers. Again, Hodge really good on like that back Justicar that's not being damaged at all. I would definitely always opt for the first boss, but I played that much. Also makes us hold Ashen for such a long time. So awkward. So many pulls. Ashen for. I think Aura Mastery went on that entire time. Very aware of that. Let's see. I think your idea here is to save Ashen for the burn phase, and I could be wrong about it, but I think, in my experience, just using it on pull is going to net you more, because then it comes back up off cooldown sooner. You can use it upstairs and on the final boss rather than just one or the other. Because if you wait until the burn phase, I'm pretty sure you don't get Ashen back up for any of the angel upstairs. But I could be wrong on the timing on that. But like if you use Ashen on pull on this boss, you get it back up for like either the last angel upstairs, or do like a double pull, you have it back up, and then have it back up for like halfway through, like during phase 2 on the last boss, which is usually where people lust anyways, is phase 2 of the last boss. If it's Tyrannicals, that's where you want Ashen back up anyways. But honestly, this is probably totally fine too, because this still makes it come back up. It's just you don't get it in between that time span. Just use it here and phase 2 of the last. Don't get it on the angel. But again, Tyrannical timings can change, so definitely end up coming back up in time. It is a Paladin thing that it appears that you're unaware of. So whenever the tank is going to get, which the tank can choose when to get stomped by standing in the boss's hitbox, not that stomping. It is this stomp, charge stomp. As long as someone is in, or as long as the tank is inside the boss's hitbox, like this red circle around him, he will cast charge stomp whenever he can. So what you do to negate this is you just freedom the tank. Like right now, if you freedom the tank, that's actually why this weak aura is highlighting him, to let you know that it's happening. Then he won't get the debuff, and I don't even think he takes the damage either. Pretty sure he just immunes it completely. It's like the Plague Borers in Plaguefall. Just like immunes everything. I could be wrong on the damage part. It might do damage. I don't remember. Last time I did this was... There you use Light of Dawn. Definitely use Word of Glory, because you have the Shaman taking like a ton of damage. So, and like there you had to use a bunch of globals on Light of the Martyr. So always just be using... Try not to use Light of Dawn very much on the boss. Be focusing Word of Glories into people. Get a lot more value that way. All these other people are going to take like 0 damage the entire time. And again, when you're running like low on mana and stuff, don't be afraid to use your Infusion of Light procs. I know a lot of the time it seems like they're never good, but Holy Light Infusion procs are actually really, really high single target healing. Like right there, you could have just used it on the rogue and it keeps it, like even right now, since it's getting targeted again, you just use a hard cast Holy Light on him instead of spamming Light of the Martyr. Because Light of the Martyr is nice, but it's not giving you as much value as using Holy Light. Death. The rogue can cloak that ability, can they? Definitely can. Spell Reflect. The other benefit to using Ashen on Pole is you would have got 2 wings during that boss. And there you could have still got 2 wings during the boss, but you ended up not using it. I understand the idea of holding it. It's for these angels, but like the first angel is not dangerous at all if you're not double pulling the first 2. Let's see up here. Still, yeah, I would have definitely used like back on the ball. Because now Ashen's back up, so that means we would have been back up too. But see, this is where like Ashen is up, so you should probably, honestly, you should just press it here because you don't need it for the next ad because it's not fortified, so it's not going to be super dangerous. So you just, and you're double pulling. I just realized. So you definitely want to use it here. If you're double pulling these, you just Ashen these, and then you have it back up for the boss. You have a backup for like the second phase of the boss, which is ideally gonna let you guys will have backup. Get the idea. Then you can use your hammer. Then you have like Aura Mastery stuff for the next boss. Or for the next mini boss, sorry. Hurting is get over a VoD and okay. Oh, he ended up healing. No. That's very unlucky. That'd take way too long. Oh, and then you Ashen here. We definitely don't want to do that on. It's gonna just die way too fast. It just makes it where the boss takes so long. Ashen for the lust on the boss. Which again, like our lust isn't gonna be up anyway, so it's not the end of the world, but an ideal circumstance. And this is definitely a pull where you use bubble because you don't need it for the boss anytime soon, except for like during maybe the last couple intermissions. So here, as soon as this spear breaks right now, I would just bubble. I think you can also bop that debuff off people. You have Aura Master, you're good. You just pressed it. That's very good. And you have wing, or you have lay on hands up as well, so we can use that as like a utility. And when you bubble, you can immediately sack somebody, so you could sack like the H or the rogue because he doesn't have cheat death. And then that sack's like getting full value because you have bubble up. Res, boss. And so you do end up getting a reset on your lust because you guys didn't time the key, so like ideally you'd want Ashen up for whenever you're gonna press lust, which is second phase. But like look how long this is taking, because hopefully you press wings right here. Otherwise you just have to hold wings anyways, so like this is where you definitely just press wings immediately as soon as it's available. And it's kind of like a minor thing, but another good use of bubble on this boss fight is if you start falling behind, you just bubble yourself when you get that debuff, the dispellable debuff, and then you dispel the other person. Both debuffs right away. Just back up. And then here's where you lust, but you don't have Ashen up because you used it a little bit too late on that boss, or you used it during the third angel. Sorry. So you should have used it during the second angels, or the first and second angel. If you would have done that, then you would have had it back up right now. Very important to have it with lust. Having Ashen with lust is like, it's really gross. You always want Ashen with lust, or lust with Ashen. They're just way too good of a combo in Tyrannical. There's groups, if you watch like MDIs or really high keys, sometimes groups will literally like hold lust for Ashen over holding lust for, or using lust with like DPS cooldown. Like that's how good it is. It scales so hard with lust. And here you don't need to walk out to dispel yourself. You can honestly dispel yourself there. Like you had the right idea. You don't have to walk out that far. This is also another fight where like Light of Dawn seems like it could be the right choice, and sometimes it can be, but a lot of the time it's going to be better to just single target spot heal people, because more often than not, like one or two people are in danger rather than, you know, everyone. There we didn't dispel either debuff, so they both end up dying, or not both, but the Shaman ends up dying. Make sure we dispel that. Possible, it's way more important. But even here, like instead of using Light of Dawn, I would definitely be using Word of Glories on the people that are actually in. Now I'm pretty sure with the Shaman, okay, the Shaman's alive now, so this Ashen is probably going to end up timing out before the phase even, or actually after the phase starts. Definitely be putting beat back on the Shaman. Okay, and here is another point that I will make that you should try to start being aware of is when this happens, you get a debuff and the Shaman gets a debuff. The Shaman's in the middle of his down, which means that it's going to time out soon. You still have yours. You have your Divine Protection. It's unused. So what I would do is I would always dispel the other player, and then I know that I'm in better shape than the other player because I can keep myself alive easier. You have Divine Protection. Depending on what you took, in this dungeon it's especially useful. The self-healing trait from... I don't think you guys killed him, so never mind, you wouldn't have it anyway. Yeah, it's from Paladin, and you guys skipped him. Right. So bad. So there, instead of moving again, like that's another case where you're moving around a lot. Like right here, I would get out of this black shit. As soon as you're out of that, right now, as soon as you step out, you just holy word holy light yourself immediately, because you're moving around so much that you're spending so much time, like so much downtime not healing. And even right here, just hard cast yourself. Don't worry about dispelling yourself right away. Dispel yourself right after you get the hard cast off. That's just unfortunate. You guys end up killing it? And you guys end up killing it. That's awesome. Yeah, that was a tough last boss. Cool. Well, I hope that's pretty much it. Yeah. As long as you guys kill this boss, which I'm assuming you do. Guns. I hope you don't wipe on it now and they give up. I think dangerous. Yeah, definitely hard casting home. That would help you a lot. And you have Aura Mastery backup, so just that stuff. Could use Sacked on the Rogue. Using all that utility. That's the thing that's annoying about Holy Paladin, is just how repetitive it's gonna get of me saying, you need to use this cooldown, this cooldown, this cooldown, this ability, this cooldown, this cooldown, this cooldown, all that stuff. It gets very repetitive, but that's just how you get better at it, is like just constantly remembering to use all of this different utility that you have available to you and finding out where it's most useful, like that. So cool. That was a very long review. So if you made it this far and watched the whole thing, thanks, and thank you for letting me use your VoD to review, and hopefully it was helpful. Let me know if you guys have any questions, comments, and stuff like that. And we'll probably be doing a lot more of these as soon as I get this dungeon series completed, especially with 9.2 getting closer. We're gonna start doing like a lot of VoD reviews, and then when 9.2 launches, when the new Mythic Plus season launches, I'm gonna be like, we're gonna go absolutely crazy on a couple. I have like a series idea that I want to do that's just like completely focused around teaching, you know, M Plus and like VoD reviewing and log reviewing for M Plus and all that kind of stuff. So cool. I will see you guys later. Thank you so much. Bye.